When I was a teenager in the 2010s, there was a popular ad campaign targeted towards LGBT children called It Gets Better. The intent of the ad campaign was to remind LGBT children that any struggles they might be facing will inevitably get better with time. But things have changed quite a lot since I was a kid. Homophobia and transphobia look very different these days. It's accidentally misgendering somebody while working at your local Starbucks, or believing that in order to be a gay male, you have to be attracted to men with actual male body parts. So today, in 2023, I'm here to tell you that it does get better, but only if you want it to. The It Gets Better project was started in 2010 by a gay couple after a rise in teen suicides within the gay community. At the time, the internet was a lot more ruthless than it is today, and cyberbullying was a big issue for everybody. Take movies like Cyberbully as an example. It wasn't the birth of the internet, but it was the birth of social media, and being an asshole was very normal, and so were the use of slurs. The campaign had famous people recording videos sending positive messages to gay teenagers, reminding them that any struggle they might be facing is indeed temporary. And when I say famous, I do mean famous. Obama, Lady Gaga, the Pixar company, and many, many YouTubers at the time.
And every day, it gets better.
Gets better.
It 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 gets better.
And it will get better.
No matter who you are or where you live,
things do get better. You might not be able to see it right now, but it's there and it's waiting for you.
It gets better. It gets great.
Because it gets better.
And while the main campaign ended years ago, they are still quite active on their YouTube channel. But the point of this video is not to tell you the history of this campaign. I thought that it was time to age that message up a bit, to add to that message, assimilate the message to the current times. So to you, LGB or T, if you're watching this, let's talk. First of all, yes, it does get better, but only if you want it to. I know that life can be difficult. I know that living in a small town and being the only gay within a 50-mile radius can be difficult. I know that coming from a family background that doesn't understand you can be difficult. Being gay isn't always easy. Kids may tease you in school. A lot of them have never met anyone like you before. For many people, you are the first gay person, the first bisexual, the first transsexual, the first lesbian that they've ever seen. Keep in mind, regardless of how colorful corporations become on June 1st, we're still only 7% of the American population. And please take that number with a grain of salt, because now people are identifying as queer for attention or to fit in. Just to show you how not a victim you are, listen to what I just said. People are pretending to be you, to be cool, to fit in, for attention. Regardless of what you might be going through, these experiences are temporary, and they don't make up who you are. And guess what? They don't dictate your future either. You do. Your current reality doesn't have to define the rest of your life. You are more than who you are attracted to. Have you been bullied? Probably. We all have at one point. But it doesn't have to be proof in your pocket that people hate you for being gay. It can be proof that people fucking suck sometimes. Yes, people don't need to applaud you or even accept you, but nobody deserves to be harassed or disrespected. If I let myself believe that the homophobic experiences I went through would be my norm, I wouldn't have made as many friends as I did in life. At least so far. I remember how scared I used to be in middle school, basically just being around straight boys my age, because of a few kids in school that used to bully me. So they tainted all straight men for me, those, few kids that bullied me. tainted all straight men for me. And guess what? I let my guard down one day, and it taught me that, surprise, not everybody hates me. At least not for being gay. Maybe they hate me for other reasons, but it's not because of that. Now I have lifelong friends that love me for me. I don't really give a fuck who I'm going to marry in the future. Some people are not going to support you for being gay. That's going to happen. And that's okay. Because not everybody has to. Everybody has a right to be themselves, just like you do. And that includes having the right to their own beliefs. But you don't need the approval of others to be happy. And you don't need the approval of others to be successful. That's what hard work is for. There's not a huge attack on LGBT rights. Notice the conversation used to be about hate crimes, yet now the attack on the LGBT is states limiting gender transition rights for minors. Something that, guess what? Sweden, one of the pioneer countries for gender-affirming care, is pumping the brakes on and reversing course. Clearly, they saw something that we haven't yet. It's called medical malpractice. The conversation is no longer about accepting yourself for who you are. It's now about forcing others to accept you for who you want to become. They're moving the goalpost any chance they get. Why? Because with each milestone we reach, the organizations that accept funding and donations from upholding our oppression lose reasons to exist. And instead of taking donations to open things like LGBT museums or to actually help the homeless LGBT youth, we're investing in spreading the word on minors being allowed to transition, fighting the good fight. 15-year-old confused Brian is saving his money to get his dick cut off at 18. Very important. Every other minority group got their rights, got the right to marry, and then packed it up. They opened up museums commemorating the tragedies and stories of those from the past, and then went to work the next day without yelling at somebody about the gay or trans genocide. Your oppression has become currency, which is why all these billionaires and celebrities who never give a fuck about anybody suddenly care about you. You can't fall for the trap, for the rehearsed talking points, for the skewed statistics, for the ever-changing language of the LGBT community. To put it plainly, things do get better, but only when you choose to not be a victim. Only when you make the conscious decision to base your personality off your interests and not your sexual, gender, or romantic attraction. Only when your story becomes about your strengths and weaknesses and not about the colors on the progress flag that represent you will it get better. If you're part of the LGB or T, you've heard the rallying cry of, "We have to fight for our rights. We're under attack. People are so cruel. They hate us for who we are. They're wrong." And keeping that victimhood mentality alive will only hold our community back and continue to line the pockets of these politically charged organizations that, by the way, don't give a fuck about you. Just go ahead and ask the Black Lives Matter organization what they did with their money. Allegedly. Good luck being a gay Republican or a gay independent. You're never going to get any invitations to any of their galas or their pride events. They're not as accepting as they might make themselves seem. It's all good in the hood until you divert from the talking points, until you start to think a little too hard. They're like a cult. Be you. Don't be gay. Don't be transsexual. Don't be bisexual. Don't be a lesbian. Be yourself. Let me elaborate on that. Don't make being gay your personality. Don't make being trans everything you are. Straight people don't get to make spectacles of their sexuality, and if they did, it would be perceived as weird. Most of us have been through a lot. I understand that. But being gay is just part of who you are. There's a lot more to you. Maybe you're an artist. We need more of those. Maybe you're interested in STEM. We need the next generation of leaders and thinkers. Things do get better. They get better because you choose a better tomorrow. They get better because you start to live for you and not for the community. You're not a victim, but you do have the ability to be somebody, to be a good addition to the world. But you can't do that if you think that everybody hates you, if you think that being a victim is all that there is. Let me tell you that you're strong. And that may come off cheesy, that's fine, but it's the truth. We need more people to tell these gay and trans young adults that not everybody hates them, because these activists have done a number on them. We need to remind these young adults that we're done with the fuck you fags, that we're not being assaulted left and right anymore. And that's not to say that homophobia or transphobia doesn't exist anymore. It does, in obvious isolated incidents, but it's to say that this isn't 1957 anymore, that we've progressed quite a bit since then. America has turned Pride Month into a Valentine's Day. We are an item, a product. That should show you how far we've come in terms of equality and representation when we have people like Tim Cook, a gay man, running one of the top 5 companies in the entire world. A company that is the reason most of us have a phone. That should tell us how far we've come. 15, 20 years ago, that would have been something the board would have voted that he keep in his personal life. And he'd be asked to avoid questions about something as simple as the person he's dating. Yet the group that calls itself the LGBT community doesn't want to accept this, or really even acknowledge the progress that we've made. We've made so much progress that people don't even care when people come out anymore. For most people, nobody cares. Celebrities are coming out and teasing their sexualities to sell records or magazines. They've been doing this for years. We have a whole month dedicated to us. And to some, apparently we have multiple days and weeks out of the year. Stop before the mindset of being controlled by headlines sets in. Headlines like drag is being banned when it's really being age restricted to 18 or 21 plus venues, or state of emergency for the LGBT community in the most accepting country on the planet. This is a play on your emotions. Let's draw attention to the fact that most LGBT causes these days are centered around children. Children are the target because they can be molded, because they're the next generation of voters, which is why the Democratic Party favors LGBT people to an almost cringy extent, to an extent that embarrasses our country.
Can we take a little video? Hi, Mr. President. It is an honor. Trans rights are human rights.
Are we topless at the White House?
So I take umbrage at anyone who might suggest that those of us who worry about amending the Constitution are less committed to the sanctity of marriage or to the fundamental bedrock principle that it exists between a man and a woman going back into the mists of history.
Now, I know that you've had your share of politicians speaking out, courting your support at election time, and then disappearing, as if your lives and your rights are just a political bargaining chip. Well, those who know me know that's not me. We are going to make LGBT rights a campaign issue.
The Human Rights Campaign will tell you that they count on me and that you can count on me.
CBS banned staffers from using the word transgender when reporting on the Nashville shooting. despite the fact that police said she was transgender and cited that as a key point in the case. But instead of examining that aspect or perhaps reflecting on how the hyperbole around the trans community being supposedly marginalised and even victims of a modern-day genocide may lead to such crimes, the media, celebrity and political class launched into a full-blown trans activist mode.
Day one of being a girl, and I have already cried 3 times. I wrote a scathing email that I did not send. I ordered dresses online that I couldn't afford. And then when someone asked me how I was, I said, I'm fine, when I wasn't fine. So, how'd I do, ladies? Good? Girl power. Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Leading the charge was President Joe Biden, who released this frankly absurd statement where he said, "Transgender Americans shape our nation's soul." Proudly serving in the military, curing deadly diseases, holding elected office, running thriving businesses, fighting for justice, raising families and much more. And White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was also eager to express support and solidarity, not with the Christian community that had just been attacked, but with the trans community.
It is shameful, it is disturbing, and our hearts go out to the trans community as they are under attack right now.
It's wrong that extreme officials are pushing hateful bills targeting transgender children, terrifying families, and criminalizing doctors. These are our kids. These are our neighbors. It's cruel and it's callous. Not somebody else's kids. They're all our kids. All our kids.
There are people who are in very dangerous and scary situations. People who face real bigotry. I'm not speaking to you, and I want to remind you that this small part of your life is not going to last forever. The small few who oppose you for simply existing make up a small percentage of those who appreciate you for what you offer to the world. I can imagine it must be frustrating to see somebody online angry for accidentally being misgendered when you get your ass beat after school every single day. Those two things don't even measure near the same. More and more teenagers are coming out as some sort of L, G, B, or T. And while I personally don't believe that many of them will grow up to be LGBT people, a lot of them will. It's important we stop telling LGBT people, especially young adults, that the world hates them for who they are. That Trump or Republicans are their worst enemy. That somehow everything comes back to white supremacy. Things do get better. They do. But not if you're a punk-ass bitch. Victims don't get rewarded. They get participation ribbons. All right, y'all. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know that this one was a hefty one. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope that you have enjoyed your holiday vacation as well as any festivities for the new year. Have a lot of things planned for the rest of this year, so I am very, very excited, and I am very grateful to have all of you joining me throughout this journey. It's been a hell of a fucking year, so cheers to another.